Hey guys, Baddies Africa episode 19 review slash recap. If you're watching me on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. If you're watching me on YouTube, make sure you follow me on TikTok. Now, before we get started with this episode, I feel like I need to give out a few lashings and dragons publicly to remind y'all that this is my page. And if you got a problem, you can stop watching. So for the last episode, episode 19, I made this poll, least valuable new G of Baddies Africa episode 19. Since Ivory and Paula have left the show, Paula came back on episode 20, but for episodes 18 and 19, the only new Gs that were in the house were Summer, Lex, and Dolly. A new G is somebody who's on their second season. So if Ivory and Paula are gone, the only three options for the poll is Summer, Dolly, and Lex. And since there's a fourth option that was now blank, I made it all for the least valuable and I made it none for the most valuable. Common sense. Shouldn't be that hard for y'all to understand. So explain to me why I got dumbass comments saying shit like give more options and your channel will grow. Seem like you're just trying to find people to agree with you in that small D energy. And you see they got cursed the fuck out because first of all, you're stupid as fuck. There's only three options to be given, idiot. And like I said in the long read that I gave them that y'all could pause to read, I told them they are another person who always watches my videos and has left multiple comments saying they don't agree with this and they don't agree with that. If you don't like my content or you constantly find yourself disagreeing, hit the fucking door. Stop watching me, because if you comment something stupid, what's going to happen to you is what happened to them. I'm going to stop you from being able to comment, so you'll just be watching and racking up my views and my check, and nobody's going to see your comments, and neither will I, and I'm going to drag you like I'm dragging these people. So, yeah. Next idiot. I asked most valuable OG. We all know what an OG is, right? Somebody who's on their third season or more. So the only OGs we have right now are Scotty, Rollie, Tommie, DTB, and Natalie. So why do I get dumbass comments like Summer and it ain't even close? And then when I tell them Summer isn't an OG, pay attention, because I'm thinking they voted in the wrong poll. You gonna try to get smart with me and say Summer is the show, pay attention. And now you can't comment no more either, you fucking idiot. And the last comment, this one wasn't under a poll, this was under my video. Somebody said, damn, is the big three gonna be your least favorite new G's all season? At least try to hide the bias. Again, I don't have to hide no bias. This is my shit. This is my opinion. If I don't like them bitches and I want to say that they my least valuable new Gs at the end of every episode, that's what the fuck I'm going to do. Stop watching if you have a problem, stupid. So now that I'm done dragging everybody, I do want to give a shout out to people like Lizzie who leave comments like this. I do love the comments like this telling me, you know, my videos make your day better and stuff like that. But please keep it respectful because I'm going to start violating y'all. With that being said, let's get started with the episode 19 review. So the episode starts with Latina coming in trying to fight DTB, talking about she replacing her. Obviously, this was a Natalie setup, but it didn't even work in Natalie's favor because DTB tore Latina up. Latina cannot fight. She was left leaking. Diamond kicked her in her face mad hard, and Amber Rose just stood there and watched her niece get washed and did nothing. And talking about she don't want to fight Diamond in her confessionals, like she's scared of Diamond. But you fought Jocelyn and you won. Make it make sense. Diamond told Natalie she was stupid. Natalie gonna say never stupid. I guess she feel like she not stupid because she basically had a shield and had a pawn do her dirty work and get beat up for her. And as Latina's walking away bloody, like I said, Amber's not even walking behind her checking on her niece. But Latina is still telling Diamond, oh, that's why you're still going home. I doubt it. So DTB and Natalie was still going back and forth, and Natalie was basically saying in her confessional how DTB is bigger than Latina and she like Latina because Latina still stood on business. Girl, please. So then Natalie wants to know what happened with Scotty and Lex while she was gone. And I'm like, here we go again with these two bitches arguing. Like, I feel like these two have the same argument over and over again. Scotty telling Lex all she want to do is fight. Lex telling Scotty you talk too much. And Lex was basically saying in her confessional, if she would have knew that Scotty was the one that messed up her wig, for sure, you know, out of all the girls that was on that bus, she would have never gave Scotty her wig back. Or she would have never just threw the wig off the cliff like that. She would have ripped it. And Scotty's still doing her normal thing, twerking, turning around, showing her shirt that says serving CUNT since 1997. And she's like, yeah, and I'm still CUNT. So basically saying it don't matter that Lex had gave her that little black eye. She don't care. Scotty started telling Lex, oh, we could do other things. We could work out. And Lex was like, no, I don't need your help working out. I'm fine how I am. And she was like, and guess what? I still look better than you. So then Natalie asked Dolly, is your hand broke or not? Because we can't keep having you running up in fights and fighting girls, but then you saying that your hand is broke. I feel like Natalie is very strategic, and she waited until Ivory was going to like ask Dolly this in front of everybody. Because you could have been asked Dolly, was the hand really broke? Because now Natalie in the confessional saying injured reserve is not even a thing. I don't know who started that. That shouldn't even be a thing. So why didn't you say that before when the person that wanted to fight Dolly so bad was here? Also, Natalie's the one who created injured reserve on Baddies Caribbean when she brought Anna and Rollie back injured. And Anna and Rollie had that sit down and they couldn't fight because they were both injured. So you started that. Then Diamond was actually defending Dolly, and she was like, how are we going to call Dolly out, but nobody calling Russian out for the same thing? Dolly going to say, oh, you're late, Diamond. You're late, Diamond. I been called that out. Like, can't you just be happy that she's actually defending you, even though y'all not cool? But Russian was like, yeah, my shit is broke, but I did fight. I went 10 rounds before I got this rap on my hand. And everybody was like, 10 rounds? Like, when did you go 10 rounds? She fought Rollie, and I think she fought Elsie. Like, I don't know what she's talking about. And she fought Fauna, and she fought K Rican, but I feel like all of those fights was like 1 or 2 rounds max. Like, I don't think she went no 10 rounds. I don't know. And if you did, they was 10 weak rounds. So what are you complaining for? Do you know what show you on? So then Diamond was basically saying, well, I don't know why you still here then. Why would you want to risk your arm getting more hurt? Dolly just want to disagree with Diamond, in my opinion, because then she going to say, oh, well, there is a such thing as injured reserve, and if Russian want to ball and chill, she could ball and chill. Like, girl, what? So Rollie basically stepped in and said what I said, that injured reserve started with her and Anna, and what Dolly is saying is BS, because Rollie said that she actually fought 3 times when she had her tummy tuck and she wasn't supposed to be fighting, which is why I guess the rule got put in place. Same thing with Anna. Anna had the fractured bones in her face or whatever. So from there, Russian basically said in her confessional that she's not trying to give the girls the satisfaction of her leaving. So if they want to say it's no more injured reserve, then F it. Like, she's willing to fight now. Again, your hand is not messed up, Russian. You just didn't want to fight. So then Natalie asked again, does anybody have anything to say? Summer runs up on Fauna because she been told Fauna that she needed that. Fauna and Summer fights don't really be giving nothing to me. So it was just mid. I don't really have a winner or a loser. But while that was going on, Lex attacked Tavy and basically started saying, F your birthday, F your birthday. You know, she told Tavy she was going to beat her up the day after her birthday. But we already knew that she was planning to do it on Tavy's birthday, and that's what she did. I'm not a fan of what Lex did. I do think it was corny. If you told the girl you was going to wait, you should have just waited. Especially because you snuck her and you caught her off guard while another fight was happening. So yeah, I felt bad for Tavy. I feel like Tavy been through it. But like I told y'all, I respect that she not scary. Even if she knows she gonna lose, she gets out there. But yeah, I felt bad that happened on her birthday. Her face was bloody, as y'all could see. She was kind of covering her face, walking away. Like, she was obviously embarrassed. The cameras was following her. She closed her room door. Natalie came to the room door, knocking on her door. She was telling everybody to get the F away from her door, even Natalie. But I think once she realized that it was Natalie, she opened the door and let Natalie in. But she told her, like, don't bring the cameras in my room. They didn't bring the cameras in the room, and it looked like Natalie basically left right back out once she realized that they wasn't going to be able to film. But yeah, there was blood all over the place. Poor Tavy. So Fauna and K Rican started walking up the stairs, and Lex was kind of calling them like, no, come back, I got unfinished business. But apparently they went upstairs because they had heels on. Kold K stayed. So Lex gonna say, well, while you're here, to Kold K, what happened to my wig? And Kold K kept saying, I didn't rip your wig. I didn't rip your wig. Lex kept trying to get Kold K to snitch and put a name on it and basically say that it was Scotty. And she refused to do that. And she just kept saying, I didn't do it. And Lex was like, okay, if you're not going to put a name on it, then I want to fight you too. And Kold K was like, okay. She's another one like Tavy, who I feel like sometimes she knows she gonna lose, but in my opinion, she don't be turning nothing down. K Rican, Fauna, Kold K, Tavy, to me, sometimes they know they're gonna take a L against Lex or Dolly or somebody like that, but at least they not scared, and I can respect that. So Kold K and Lex have their round. I'm not gonna lie, Kold K hit the floor before the round even started. She definitely lost, but we expected that. Like I said, I'm just happy that she got out there and she wasn't scared. And obviously, we know that these confessionals are filmed later. So Lex was basically apologizing in her confessional, saying that, you know, she beat Killa's ass and she shouldn't have because she wasn't the sole one who ripped the wig. So she apologizes. Now, Summer wants to fight KK again, a mid-fight. But Marissa was watching it and she was basically saying, you know, she's not feeling what's going on right now and she's about to leave. She's still talking about the fact that Marissa's sleeping with KK, baby dad. Latina's laughing, getting a kick out of this shit. It was stupid. All summer fights be stupid for real to me, because she just fight over nothing. So Fauna comes back out. Tavy also comes back out. And when Tavy comes back out, she basically wants to go at it with Lex again. And Tavy is just standing on the fact that she feels like Lex is using her as a storyline in her confessionals. And somebody did say, like, you know, Lex has attached herself to every newbie this season in some way. And that's the truth. She's fought Tavy, Fauna, K Rican, Kold K, and then she's befriended Choco, Elsie, and Russian. And she's befriended all 3 of them to the extent where she was fighting for them or getting some type of camera time out of them. So like when KK was stomping Choco, Lex got camera time because she fought KK and said that she was defending Choco. When Elsie and Rican was getting into it at the beginning, Lex went in the room trying to mediate with Ivory, even though she knew she wasn't neutral, and her and Fauna ended up fighting. So that was her defending Elsie and kind of using Elsie for camera time. And then when it comes to Russian, I feel like we've seen different instances throughout the show of Lex defending Russian. But next episode, episode 20, I'ma just jump ahead, even though this is the episode 19 review. We know that Lex is chasing Russian down the street. So I just feel like she has used the newbies as storylines and attached herself to all of them in some way. But Tavy and Lex go at it again. Tavy ends up leaking again. She just was swimming. Like, I know she wanted to get her lick back, but she wanted to stand on business. But it was like, girl, it's already your birthday, like you said, and your face was already messed up. I think you should have just ate that. And Russian is talking shit in her confessionals like, oh, Tavy kept saying she wanted a baddie birthday. She asked for it and she got it. Rollie was basically telling Tavy, like, you don't need to fight no more. Same shit I'm saying. And Tavy was saying she can't see. And Lex was like, yeah, I know you can't see. Happy birthday. So from there, Lex was like, where's K Rican? And Fauna was like, what are you looking for Rican for? Scotty's the one who ripped your wig. So what's next? Like, you trying to go down the line and Scotty the one who did it. So Fauna did tell on Scotty. And I feel like I kind of saw where her and KK was coming from. KK was basically being a loyal friend to Scotty. Like, Scotty's my girl. I'm not telling on Scotty. I'm going to just let Lex know I didn't rip her wig. And if she still want to fight me, then oh well. Fauna, on the other hand, was probably like, Scotty just standing here while Lex is going down the line fighting all of us instead of just admitting that she's the one that did it. Because now Lex already done fought KK and she done fought Tavy. And basically it's looking like K Rican and Fauna would have been next. And Scotty just was going to let it happen instead of just speaking up and saying that she was the one who did it. So from there, Scotty and Lex start going back and forth again. I'm going to just quickly summarize it. Because again, same argument as always. Scotty asking Lex, why you always bringing my name up? Lex don't even know who Russian is, but she be acting like that's her friend. She gonna say, oh, I bring your name up because you tried to say, why was I cool with Rican when she called us ugly? And everybody was like, you mean Russian? Because Russian was the one who had called Summer, Dolly, and Lex ugly. So she don't even know the difference between K Rican and Russian for real. And Lex was basically saying, yeah, so how you gonna talk about me being cool with Russian, but you still cool with Natalie and she called you ugly? And Scotty basically said, me and Natalie not friends. If Natalie get into a fight right now, I'm not fighting for her. And if I get into a fight right now, she not gonna fight for me. So at the end of it, Scotty was basically like, okay, so you're fighting me for my opinion. And Lex was like, I'm fighting you because I can and you talk too much. And Scotty was like, well, I'm always going to have an opinion. And Lex was like, okay, then you're always going to get beat up. Like I said, I do feel like Lex picks and chooses, especially when it comes to like the OGs, because I feel like DTB and Rollie also insert themselves and make comments or give their opinions. And she does not get as mad as she gets with Scotty. So Rican comes downstairs and she's like, what you was calling me for? I'm not going to jail for none of y'all hoes. I was on the phone with my lawyer. What do you want? Lex is like, what happened to my wig? Rican is basically saying the same thing that KK said. I didn't rip your wig. I don't know who ripped your wig. All the wigs was on the bus. Like, it is what it is. I'm not giving you no details. I'm just telling you I didn't do it. And then Lex was like, well, we handled it now. I know who ripped it now. But if nobody spoke up, I was going to beat all of y'all ass. And Rican was basically saying in her confessional, like, I'm not worried about Lex. I'm about to have to pack up and go home because I got to go to court. And DTB was like, okay, like, it's no need to keep talking about it, Lex. Like you said, it's handled now. So now Natalie decides to start with Diamond again. She's like, oh, what's up with you? You stand just like me. You've been studying me. This, that, and the third. They go back and forth, and it ends up with Diamond acting like she's going to run up on Natalie. And Natalie responds by basically kicking her shoes off and acting like she's going to run up too. And she was like, yeah, I'm not scared of you. You can't fight. And Natalie was telling DTB she'll whoop her ass, this, that, and the third. But obviously you can see the security is in between them immediately. And DTB started telling Natalie, watch when my foot heals. So Dolly was like, oh, now everybody's injured. Everybody's faking injuries. And DTB was like, no, I swear my foot is really messed up. Her foot probably is messed up. I mean, she kicked Latina right in her face. So from there, Natalie tells them that they're going to be having a content day today. They go into like a place where they could have a photo shoot pretty much. And then she says there is one more celebrity guest coming. Rollie already know what's up. She know that it's Tommie. And she said, I'm honestly not planning on having fun at this activity because she know when Tommie comes, she want to fight. So then we see Fauna and Kold K going to check on K Rican. She's packing up to leave. And she said, you know, she's definitely coming back. But she tried to not even have to go to court. But, you know, they want to see her. So she has no choice. And she basically was like, y'all know what's going on. But I'm not going to say too much. So, you know, I guess Fauna and Kold K know the whole situation as to why she's going to court. Or whatever this case or charge that she's fighting is. But she doesn't want to say it on camera. And it really should only be a couple episodes left, I'm hoping. But K Rican says she's coming back. So we'll see. So from there, we see some of the girls heading out for Tavii'S birthday. And they're like, yeah, Tavy outside, you know, cheering her on. Scotty, Rollie, DTB, Fauna, etc. Kold K stayed home tonight. She's not feeling well. And then we also see this group, and they're going to the content day to do the photo shoot as well. Lex was definitely giving Scotty, I saw the memes, you know, basically saying that this was very similar to how Scotty looked at the beginning of Baddies Africa. Y'all funny. Lex and Dolly was getting on my nerves when they got on the bus because y'all always are talking about other people picking and choosing, but Lex gonna say, oh, I'm gonna stay away from Tavy as much as possible because I really don't want to fight her. And Dolly was like, yeah, I don't want to fight her either. She was too mad. And Lex was like, yeah, she was way too mad. And Dolly gonna say in her confessional, I don't want to fight an ox. I don't want to fight Tavy when she that mad. And then on this bus, they were cheersing to Tavy's birthday, and DTB was like, you know, what a way to bring in a birthday. And Tavy was like, it's cool because nobody could break my spirit. And Rollie was giving her tens for that and basically saying that's one thing I've learned about Tavy. You cannot break that girl's spirit. She gonna stand on business, and she just gonna always do her shit. And Rollie was just saying in her confessional that, you know, as an OG, she always try to give the newbies game and let them know that she is listening to them when they talk. And I feel like they really do see that because a lot of the new girls that have come since Caribbean have always referred to Rollie as like their favorite OG or the person that they felt gave them the most game or just was there for them the most compared to the others. Rollie was also giving Scotty her flowers, basically saying, you know, Scotty been standing on business this season and been popping her shit. And Scotty was like, oh, I'm finally getting my flowers from Rollie because y'all know every season Rollie be telling me I ain't doing shit. Then on this bus, Dolly gonna say, let's welcome Latina, and they start asking her about the fight with DTB. She gonna say, honestly, I feel like I had to do that. I had to do my big one. You didn't do no big one. You got beat up. You was literally bleeding all over the place. What are we talking about? What big one did you do? And Dolly was like, yeah, but you definitely locked in with us. You locked in with the baddies because you stood on business and you Amber Rose's niece. I'm like, see, Dolly just want to use her because of her proximity to a celebrity, which is Amber Rose. How you gonna say, oh yeah, you Amber Rose's niece, so we locked in? You don't even know if this bitch is real or fake. So they was talking about the same thing on this bus, and they was basically all just saying how Latina got beat up. You know, she ran up on DTB and got done up. And DTB was saying, you know, I don't understand why Natalie tried to start with Marissa and make it seem crazy as if this isn't a hard experience. Marissa's new to this. She's not used to her face being bruised up. Like she said, she's not used to having to wear makeup 24/7. So Diamond is being understanding. Like, that's an adjustment for somebody to make. This is a hard experience, and this is not real life or regular life. Now, is it probably a mentally hard situation to be in? Yes, but it's also a choice, and y'all making that choice for money. And it's not as mentally draining as other people real jobs who don't get paid as much as y'all. And Marissa was like, you know, this is definitely going to be my last night with you guys because it's just tiring for me. You know, I knew we was going to be fighting, but I didn't think we was going to fight every 5 seconds or every single time we around each other. And Rollie was saying, you know, it depends on who you beefing with. But, you know, Marissa's beefing with Summer. So when you beefing with somebody like Summer, yeah, it is going to be nonstop. Back on this bus, Russian is basically letting all of the girls know she's not going home. So if there's no more injured reserve, then it's fine. She's going to do what she got to do and she's going to fight. And she basically said in her confessional, next time she see K Rican, it's up. Lex was telling Russian she likes her, but she got a bone to pick with her. And she was like, you should have never volunteered yourself to leave. Don't do that. And Russian basically was like, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not going home and I'm going to do what I have to do. And Elsie was like, but do you want to do it, Russian? And I actually respected Elsie for that because it's clear that Russian don't want to do this. She's just doing whatever she can to stay in the house and to try to be liked by these girls when you really just need to go the fuck home because it's not for you. And it's really not for Elsie either. She could go as well because right after she asked Russian that, Dolly told Elsie to shut the F up because she don't do nothing. Of course, Elsie didn't say nothing back. So the girls arrived to the photo shoot place and Natalie is basically telling them, enjoy, see all the rooms, get y'all content, you know, be models and influencers for today. And, you know, Lex was saying that she do got partnerships like Fashion Nova, and I'm sure some of the other girls got the same thing. So this is a place for them to get that content, take those pictures so they could post them. And Scotty was basically saying this was up her alley. So we saw some of the girls take some pictures. And from there, Natalie let them know that they were going to be going gin tasting. And she was like, you know how people do wine tasting or tequila tasting or whatever. She was like, out here, gin is a big thing. As they're walking, Natalie and Amber are holding hands like they're so close. And Natalie is asking Amber if she's ever gin tasted. Amber said yes, but she said she didn't enjoy it and that gin tastes like rubbing alcohol. So the girls get inside for the gin tasting. They sit down. Latina tries to sit down where Tavy and Marissa are. And DTB kind of pointed and was like saying to production, can you tell her to move? Like, get out my way. And next thing you know, you just see Latina walking off. So I think the production told her, get your ass up. Like, girl, you a nobody trying to be in the middle of the scene. And clearly they wanted this scene to be dedicated to Rollie and Tommie, in my opinion. So they wasn't trying to have another round go on between DTB and Latina if they didn't have to have it. Because why would Latina think she was sitting there anyway? You should have sat with the people who you was on the bus with. Or with your aunt. So when Latina moved, DTB sat down next to Tavy and she was like, yeah, that girl got off on the wrong foot, literally. And they were laughing because she got kicked in her face. So the girls are doing their gin tasting. You see the faces. I don't think anybody enjoyed the gin. They all said it was nasty, very strong. Like Amber said, straight rubbing alcohol. And if something is too strong for these girls and we know how they drink, it must be real strong. But they were having some fun because the girls got to make their own flavor gin. So, they were mixing it up, playing mixologist. And then Natalie was like, can we get a happy birthday, Tavy? Next thing you know, the girls are singing Welcome to Baddies, everybody whooping everybody. I didn't know that was the happy birthday song. Tavy is giving Amber Rose a lap dance. And while all of this is going on and the ladies are kind of distracted, which makes me think that Natalie did this on purpose. I don't think she randomly just decided to say happy birthday, Tavy. I think she wanted to have the girls singing and being distracted by what was going on around them. So while everybody's singing, including Rollie, these guys come in and they start dropping these roses on the floor, like basically making a path for somebody to follow. Next thing you know, Tommie is coming in on a camel following that path of roses. So of course everybody's shocked, caught off guard by Tommie's entrance, and DTB was like, she pulled up on a camel, she did it again, that's how you make a grand entrance. Lex was like, I don't know what to expect, but we meet with Tommie yet again, because Lex's first and only experience with Tommie was the pow pow. Now Tavy, I don't know, it sounded like Tavy said that Tommie was annoying as fuck, but she might have been talking about somebody else, but that's what it sounded like she said when she was talking to Rollie. And then in her confessional, she was basically saying, how did she even get a camel? So Rollie was not playing. She immediately was like, get her off the camel. She's throwing stuff at Tommie, got the camel ducking down. The camel ended up on all fours because he was so scared. And Scotty was like, I feel like I hope Tommie got something this time because Rollie is really an animal right now and that camel is not going to save her. And Elsie was laughing, basically saying that Tommie and Rollie's feud is funny. It is, but I do not feel like Tommie stood on business this episode, and we are going to get into that. So this is what I mean when I say that the camel was terrified and had dropped down to the damn ground. So Fauna and Dolly were in their confessionals basically saying, Rollie need to leave the camel alone. Don't hurt the animal. And then Dolly going to say, I don't know what Tommie did. Rollie throwing stuff at her and the camel. Like, Dolly, wasn't you right next to the pow pow when Tommie pow powed it? Like, it was literally right next to your face. Marissa was saying that Tommie's a Gemini like her. They're very unpredictable. And she was like, you never know if she's going to be riding clean or dirty. But Tommie probably riding dirty. It's interesting that Marissa said that because she's probably the most boring Gemini to ever hit this show. Some of the other Geminis on the show are Tasiki and Nunu for sure. But they're definitely all people who have given us viral moments or entertained us. I just feel like Marissa was not that entertaining to be a Gemini. And this is what I mean when I say that I don't feel like Tommie was standing on business. Rollie was still telling her to get off the camel. In my opinion, she was stalling. And then Rollie was saying she thought she was going to come in here on a camel and not get her ass whipped. Now she don't want to take the rings off. Tommie had rings on and she was refusing to take them off. If anybody else did that, y'all would be clocking it. But because y'all like Tommie, y'all not saying nothing. She should not have rings on right now. She should be ready to fight because you pow-powed somebody. So when you pow-pow people and you know that you coming to see them, you should know that you're going to have to fight and you should give them a fair fight. So I didn't respect that. I felt like Tommie was being scary and she wanted the rings like a weapon. So Rollie was basically saying, Tommie, you talked all this shit on the internet, get off the camel. And Tommie was like, I should have never been able to touch you. I should have never been able to touch you. I guess she was basically trying to say Rollie's an OG, so I should have never been able to touch you. And she was like, I'm just that bitch though. Mind you, Tommie is saying all this while she's still on the camel. So you popping all this shit while you on the camel like you ready to fight. She gets off the camel. Her and Rollie square up. The first round I would say was mid. Tommie was getting some licks in. But that second round, Rollie knocked Tommie down to the ground. Tommie's face looked like it was leaking. And she was like, oh, you got that, Rollie. You got that. You got that. Like Choco said, Tommie was doing a lot of squaring up, but Rollie really did her thing. Tommie wasn't really doing much of nothing. Oh, and I forgot to mention, before Tommie had got off the camel, Scotty asked her, like, what did you bring today besides the camel? Because y'all know Scotty had clocked it from the beginning last time that something was in that bunny that Tommie had. So she's just clocking it again. Like, do you have another weapon? And especially for Tommie to have had rings on for both rounds, she did nothing with Rollie. And she really did not want to fight. Then Rollie started throwing stuff when they broke them up. She was throwing stuff at Tommie, and Tommie going to say, oh, she keep throwing stuff. She keep using weapons. And Rollie was like, bitch, how you talking about I'm using weapons because I'm throwing stuff, but you got rings on, and you have rings on for both of these rounds, and you still lost. From there, Tommie goes into this whole spiel about how she still came today and she's tired of embarrassing her kids. She don't care if Rollie feel like she won the fight today. She can't keep doing this. She can't keep embarrassing her kids. I feel like Tommie just did not want to fight no more, and she was talking her way out of really getting her ass whooped because Rollie was willing to go again. So she used this fake maturity growth speech to get out of that ass whooping, because let's be real, Tommie is 45 years old. She's been doing this shit for the past 10 years. She has not grown up. She will not grow up, in my opinion. And you don't care about embarrassing your kids because you've been doing it. Also, Midwest was like 6 months ago. So why are y'all choosing to believe that she had this huge amount of growth in the last 6 months from her deciding to come to the show and pow multiple girls to 6 months later, now she's crying and saying she don't want to embarrass her kids no more. No, she don't want to get beat up. Like, be real. She did not have that much growth in 6 months. And y'all only want to believe that because y'all like Tommie. If anybody else did that and then came back to the show 6 months later saying, oh, I don't want to fight, y'all would be having a field day. Stunner girl. Because she's probably the only other person who would do something like that on Baddies. If she came and did that, and then 6 months later came back and was telling Anna and the rest of the girls, oh, I don't want to fight. I've grown up. I don't want to embarrass my family. Y'all would be dragging her. So please stop with the bias shit. Tommie did not stand on what she did. But anyway, Rollie was telling Tommie, you should have never posted my son. Tommie said, I posted your son to remind you that you have one. And everybody was oohing and eyeing. And Rollie was like, I don't need nobody to remind me that I have a son. I do this shit for him. And Tommie was like, okay. I'm just saying me and you don't have a problem. Like, again, like I said, she was talking Rollie down. She did not want it to escalate any further. And she did not want to go another round. That's what I saw. And Summer and Natalie was sitting there, and Summer said in her confessional, you know, I don't really know what's going on. I feel like they might as well kiss and make up because they doing all this crying. And one of my friends said, you know, I feel like Summer is not used to seeing stuff like this because Baddies has gotten so nasty where these girls don't really build a sisterhood. They kind of just make friends and then they make enemies. I feel like the earlier Baddies, yeah, they might get into it with each other, but they did have like a sense of sisterhood there, where they are able to kind of talk stuff out like this. A fight doesn't have to get carried out for the whole season. You might fight somebody one day, but y'all can talk it out and move on. Summer gets into it with somebody episode 1 and it goes on until episode 20. So like Fauna said, Rollie heard Tommie out and they was able to just come to a mutual understanding and they clearly understood where each other was coming from. Rollie probably did kind of feel what Tommie was saying because she probably tired of embarrassing her son. Because if you did watch Rollie's show, Transforming Rollie, her son kind of told her that he was like embarrassed of her fighting on Zeus. And he was like, your cornrows is a hood trophy. So her son is kind of annoyed with her embarrassing him. So I'm sure Rollie understood what Tommie was saying. So Tommie and Rollie are done, and now Tommie decides to make a joke and say, I didn't shoot you, you ran into those bullets. So everybody laughed. I will say that was the funniest part of the episode, so I will give Tommie that. You know, she does bring an entertainment factor. She's definitely valuable to the show. But in this situation, I just don't feel like she stood on business because she did something so extreme, and it wasn't that long ago. So you can't come now saying like, oh, I don't want to fight. I don't want to embarrass my kids. Like, I'm not taking that. I'm sorry. So from there, Lex and Dolly was basically saying like they hope Tommie's going to come out. And Dolly was like, yeah, we've been watching you for years. And Tommie basically said, you know, she is going to come out. And you could tell that Lex, Summer, and Dolly was happy to finally have an interaction with Tommie besides the pow, where they could actually get to know her themselves. So they came, gave a group hug, Natalie, Tommie, Rollie, Summer, Dolly, Lex. And Elsie was basically saying in her confessional, you know, I would never forgive somebody for talking about my kids, but kudos to Rollie and Tommie. And Dolly gonna say in her confessional that she loves seeing black women get along. And she was like, we could scrap, but I don't feel like it always got to be ongoing beef. I feel like you should practice what you're preaching in your confessional because you and Summer drag beefs out for the longest. Lex is starting to do it too. Like, I feel like Dolly and Summer literally still got beefs that they had from the last season. Some of them from the beginning of the last season. Like, Summer been beefing with Pretty P since the beginning of Midwest. So Natalie calls Tavy up once again to just give her a birthday shout out. She let Tavy give a toast. And Tavy was basically saying, you know, my mom, just like every other mom, could have died while giving birth to me. You know, childbirth is one of the closest things to death. And she was like, for that reason, I'm going to always live my life to the fullest. And I feel like everybody should do that. And Lex is so weird because why are you raising a glass to Tavy's birthday now? So Tavy was kind of, you know, cheersing with everybody, like going up to everybody and clinking her shot glass to theirs. She did not clink her shot glass with Lex's because, like, girl, you're weird. And Tavy went over to Tommie, gave her a hug, and she was like, you know, I feel all that mother stuff that you was talking about. So they hugged. Tavy also went and gave Rollie a hug, and then Rollie and Tommie hugged once again. And Natalie gonna say, come on, guys, enough. So it wouldn't have been enough if they were still fighting, but it's enough because they hugging. Girl, please. Dolly decides to go to the club with her robe on, and the girls get to the club, and they basically having a great time. From there, we do get Marissa's outro. And Marissa basically said in her outro, you know, there was good times, there was bad times. I don't regret anything. But yeah, Marissa was cute, you know, but her personality was dry. She just really gave nothing. You know, I feel like Jaden was a more interesting baby mama that was on Baddies. But yeah, bye Marissa. And Scotty basically said she didn't care what was going on with her eyes. She was still turning up, having a good time. As y'all could see, she still looked good. She do got that eye covered like Aaliyah, but she still looked good and she having a good time. And the episode basically ended there. So for Baddies Africa episode 19, my least valuable OG is Natalie. My most valuable OGs are Rollie and DTB. My most valuable newbies are Tavy, Baby, and Kold K. My least valuable newbies are Latina, Russian, Marissa, and Elsie. And my least valuable newgies are Dolly, Lex, and Summer. I have no most valuable newgies, and I said what I said. So that's my Baddies Africa episode 19 review slash recap. If you're watching me on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. If you're watching me on YouTube, make sure you follow me on TikTok. And I'll see y'all later. Bye.